Victoria. Welcome back to Imagine After Hours. The Canadian Mental Health Association, or CMHA, says that 1 in 5 Canadians in any given year will experience personally a mental health problem or illness. As well, there's stigma that surrounds mental health, making it hard for folks to access treatment and belong to the community. So, to solve this problem, CMHA hosts Canada's largest bike ride for mental health, a fundraiser called Ride Don't Hide. This event simultaneously helps to raise funds for mental health services and also reduce the stigma. So on this episode, we're going to be talking to Michael Schratter, who is the founder of Ride Don't Hide. In 2011, he rode across the world to raise awareness about mental health. We're also going to be talking to Sykes of CMHA, who is the ride coordinator, and she'll be sharing more information about how to get involved. Yeah, so to get started, do you want to just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how you came to connect cycling with mental health?
Sure. My name is Michael Schratter. I'm a teacher in the Vancouver School Board, BC born and raised. And growing up with my mental health challenges, I'm bipolar. The BC phenomenon, I guess, of doing a large over-the-top physical feat to show strength. It's very much BC. So it in my youth it would have been Terry Fox, and then later Rick Hansen, who wheelchaired around the world. And so Ride Don't Hide sort of piggybacked off those two pioneers, and the idea was to cycle around the world, the 40,000 kilometers. That's the equatorial distance around the planet, while discussing and bringing forth the dialogue about how damaging the stigma is that so often surrounds Ride Don't Hide. And so back in 2010, as a teacher and as a part-time journalist, I felt that those things were all connected, that if I could tell a different story as to what it's like to deal with a mental health challenge, and what mental illness looks like in our society, then perhaps other functioning professionals would come out from hiding. And this could change the visible portrayal of what mental illness looks like. I think we don't have to go too far back to sort of think about how stigmatized mental health challenges were. And with that stigma came a whole lot of hiding and people choosing not to disclose. Unfortunately, in that absence of, I guess if I can use it, healthy portrayals of what mental illness looks like in our society, there are some other forces that were implicitly and explicitly educating our citizens. And one of them would have been the Hollywoodization of mental illness. And up until fairly recently, that was horrendously played out as murderous rampage, typically involving some sort of kitchen knife or something silly like that. Then the other time mental illness was visible in society is when some horrendous statistical outlier occurred and someone did something very damaging and hurt people, and then it would, be this front of the newspaper headline splash. And then the third portrayal of what mental illness looked like was the deterioration of our social safety net. So here in Vancouver, it was the homelessness, it was people eating out of, the dumpsters in the back alley. And so you had this extremely negative portrayal of what mental illness looked like between the storytelling in Hollywood, the storytelling in the media, and then the homeless situation, the deterioration and the deinstitutionalization of very sick people. And this understandably has people that are functioning with the mental health challenges choose to stay silent because they did not want to be in any way connected to that horrendous portrayal. Right. And so Ride Don't Hide came from that notion that people, average normal citizens like myself have an obligation to stop hiding, to counterbalance and refute the stigmatizing portrayals. Mm-hmm. That's a long answer of why I wrote.
And so how does Ride Don't Hide, like an event like that, actively dismantle these negative portrayals or this stigma around mental health?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I think at its height before the pandemic in 2018, we might have had around 10,000 Canadians cycling from Victoria on the West Coast to, St. John's, Newfoundland. And here you see just average everyday Canadians going for a bike ride in the sun. Some of them wearing, something I'm riding for my mom or I'm riding for my daughter, and it totally destigmatizes and brings a lot more humanity into this. That's really the crux, is that Ride Don't Hide tries to humanize something that's very human and then bring out an empathetic response.
Right.
So yeah, can you tell me a little bit about that first ride that you did? I think you said 2010. So you rode around the world, and were you promoting, awareness about mental health while you were going? Were you talking to people, and how were people responding to your message?
Yeah, I left August the 1st, and it took me 16 months to cycle through 33 countries on the continents, except for Antarctica, for a sum total of 40,000 kilometers, which is once around the planet. And I always wore my Ride Don't Hide jersey, and I left a part-time journalism gig with a prominent Vancouver newspaper at the time, Vancouver 24 Hours, and the editor very generously allowed me the assignment of publishing an article from the road every 2 weeks about the mental health challenges or policies or cultural sort of norms of the country that I was in. Mm. So it was probably the hardest part, to be honest, of the 16-month bike ride was finding interesting perspectives to publish every 2 weeks for the newspaper back in Vancouver. There was so often positive messages left for me, either via email or in social media, or when I ran into people in person. A lot of tears. A lot of people, for whatever reason, I became a bit of a lightning rod of disclosure. Mm. So I would hear a lot of people saying, I've never told anyone about this before, but this is what I deal with, or this is what I've dealt with. A lot of emotion, a lot of people saying it's about time, that we should be able to talk about this. And it was always the same, and it was quite frankly the energy that that fueled me to go forward. Rain or shine, snow, heat, loneliness, whatever it was always that. Yeah, those messages saying, like, don't stop. Mm. This is important.
Mm-hmm. And so since then, the event's now grown to, go across Canada in 25 communities and almost 10,000 people. So did you have any idea that you were starting a movement of this size when you first set out on your bike ride?
Absolutely not. No, I was just trying to get home in one piece. The risk was to be exposed to traffic in all of these different countries for 16 months. So I was trying very hard to keep safe, to not get into a serious bike accident. And no, not even in my most manic of fantasies could have I foreseen that some 11 years later this would still be here.
Wow. And so with stigma and your experience with your own mental health challenges, what kind of stigma have you faced? And how did you unlearn that or, still take action despite the stigma that you faced?
I've often had the question posed to me as to what was the hardest part of Ride Don't Hide. And to be honest, that the hardest part was to go to my employer, Vancouver School Board, to propose the idea, to ask for the leave. Mm. That was exceedingly difficult to come out like that. Prior to that, only my closest family members and friends would know about what I was dealing with. And I would spend an exorbitant amount of energy, since I was a teen, before I was even recognized as bipolar, just to put on a facade of normalcy. Mm. A tremendous amount of energy. And if you had ever said to me that someday I would, do something like Ride Don't Hide and not just acknowledge and come forth with my mental health challenges, but to do it in such a public way, I would have told you that the odds of me ever doing that were, it was greater that I was going to someday fly with wings than to ever acknowledge publicly my mental health challenges. But that was the crux. That was the key. That I had to get over my fear of fear of the stigma in order to make an impact. Mm-hmm. Another story around that was the first article I wrote for Vancouver 24 Hours, the Ride Don't Hide article. I told the readers that my typical society column would be on hold, and that I was doing this venture around the world and what I was trying to do. And then the very last paragraph, I said, I'm Michael Schratter and I'm bipolar. And I sat for a good half an hour, 45 minutes, weeping, to be honest, not able to hit the send button to my editor. Because once I hit the send button to my editor, that was it. The disclosure was public.
Wow. And
the article would be printed. And finally, I got the courage. It's laughable now, but at the time it wasn't. At the time, there was the amount of fear, but I finally hit send. And at that point, a chip off my shoulders, the size of a fire log, fell, and the thud was very audible.
Wow.
So the man you see here today that's so readily able to share is not the man that existed before Ride Don't Hide.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for speaking about Ride Don't Hide and offering your story.
Well, I look forward to being in Victoria for this year's ride, and I look forward to meeting everyone. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share. Will you be there? Will you be there in June?
Yeah.
Okay, see you then.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, bye. And up next, we'll be speaking to Lauren Sykes, who is the Ride Don't Hide coordinator for Victoria.
So my name is Lauren Sykes, and I am the Resource Development and Events Coordinator at the CMHA Victoria office.
Amazing. And so can you tell us a little bit about how the ride is going to happen this year?
Yeah, so this year, as last year, it will be virtual. So we're not having any in-person ride. Part of that process was opening up the ride to be a bit more inclusive to each person's quarantine situation. So this year we're promoting folks to participate at the level that they feel comfortable with. So whether that's biking or walking outside, if you have a backyard, you can exercise in your yard or in your very tiny apartment. We know that physical activity is related to one's mental health, so we want folks to be motivated to move their body regardless of their facial situation.
Great. And so do participants in the ride, do they fundraise for themselves? And how does the fundraising work?
Yeah, so Ride Don't Hide is a peer-to-peer fundraiser. So you ask your friends, family, and your coworkers to support you and to support mental health awareness by donating. Each rider has their own fundraising page, and teams also have their own fundraising page. And so you can send that link to your friends or family, and they can just hit the Donate Now button, and it'll go right under your fundraising goal. So that is all on the website. We are here to support you. And so, my email's plastered all over the website as well. So you can always reach out to me if you need help fundraising. Yeah.
And so the money that is raised in Ride Don't Hide, where does that go, or what kinds of services does that help?
Yeah, so Ride Don't Hide is CMHA Victoria's largest and currently our only fundraiser. So that means that every dollar we raise at the ride is what we have available for that fiscal year to support the funding of our programs and services. And you can learn more about that on the Ride Don't Hide website. There's a little tab that says Impact.
And do you have anything else you'd like to say about the Ride Don't Hide this year?
So this year, official Ride Don't Hide Day is June 13th. So we're actually introducing a really fun new initiative. It's called Decoding Mental Health. So you'll find out more when you register to ride. It'll show up on the rider page. But it's essentially a little treasure hunt. We really want to support small businesses this year, like the Imagine Cafe. So that is kind of what this new project is about. So, yeah. I won't say too much about it. You got to register. You can go online right now at ridedon'thide.com/Victoria, and you can register. It's all open right now, and you can begin your journey now.
Great. Okay, well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And that wraps up our show for today. If you've been inspired by what Lauren and Michael have shared and want to register for the ride, make sure to visit the website at www.ridedon'thide.com/Victoria. Thanks again for watching this episode, and we'll see you again soon.